that you shared today are valuable for us understanding how you communicate, but also help us to learn how to communicate better too. So I think you can really teach us a lot, and we need to somehow work together to get that across.
So it's actually a question. You said, I would never say that to somebody I'm working with. And so my brain's going, you have experience of how that improved your communication. Making that kind of request, in the right words, in the right context to a client actually makes them feel seen, because you're seeing the differences in the way you communicate, and you're coming up with a solution, because that when there's a difference in the way people communicate, it causes friction. It erodes the connection, it erodes the trust, right? And so to actually, in the right context, with the right words, bring that up with either a colleague or a client, it's amazing. I think you would be surprised what it does to the relationship. It's really, really good. And I've done it to friends, colleagues, and clients, and always been quite happy with the result.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. So maybe at the beginning of a conversation, sort of set that tone, maybe just, figuring out how you said to say it, by not saying like non sequitur or whatever, but just saying, hey, when this happens, this. Tristan, yes.
Yeah, I'm also a very huge advocate. Obviously, I think tact matters a lot. So in my life, I found that here's been the most successful way. I think everyone would do better with a little bit of mindfulness, but many people don't understand that because it has so much meaning underneath it. Have an idea what your thoughts are being separate from them. Understanding that I can be angry without being angry. Understanding that I'm just curious about something, not, the difference between being that thing and understanding that it's part of us. The side effect to that is kind of knowing how we work a little bit. And in my life, I've always done the same thing. Once you know a little bit about how you work, a fun, weird quirk that requires effectively special needs, I'm making a request for you to act a little bit differently, so that way we get more out of me. And in return, when you tell me, hey, I work best in this, like if you hit me this, and this way, I'll be way more effective. Can you put that additional effort into that? That is, maybe it's just because I work with a lot of men specifically. So obviously like, hey, we'll work better is an easy sales pitch. But I first give an example of like, hey, I'm really bad at this. I have no problem labeling my ADD. Depending on the person, I will explain, this is how I work. This would be the best way, and this will be the result. And then over time, they will notice, or if I work long enough, I will hopefully be able to point it out to them. But you will find that the ego does not like this at all, and it is a very real self-realization. At best, you can give an example of how you work, and then you can, hopefully they see themselves. If you do notice, try to broach it, but that can be difficult. Anika, I know, has an amazing skill at that, but she has a weird level of empathy. And again, with autism, they don't tend to give emotional waves, so things can be induced a lot easier as a weird side effect, where I give off so many emotional waves that I can really pollute my own pool because of my own emotional resonance. So there's a little nuance in there, but I think self-effacing with how you work, demonstrating that you take your own medicine, and then kind of giving tools. And then like, hey, I always like, hey, if I did this, and this first before I gave it to you, would that be better? Like, check a facilitation. And then, again, now they've got a measurement. It's different than giving someone a blank page versus giving them something to contrast against. We love contrasting and correcting. We don't necessarily love dealing with the blank page, especially when it's got to do it ourselves. But yeah, Anna, you are super mindful, and everyone really hears what you're saying. I bet you could have like such a higher level of efficient conversations with your clients just by showing them how to have more efficient conversations with you. It just feels better. You don't feel like you're misunderstanding. And you kind of give a playground of like, hey, at any time, we're allowed to pause and kind of talk about the conversation that we're having. Hey, I don't kind of understand. I feel this. You're kind of breaking that curtain of like, listen, when we talk, other things are going on inside me. I've addressed that because we're acting a different way to not have those happen. And that's just the world that we don't live in. We're not taught that in school. It's not really, it is something missing. But I think as adults, you can start implementing it immediately. I wish I had a better landing for that. It just kind of went off.
No, that was fine. Well, I think, for like people especially like, I said accountants, myself, and bookkeepers, that, we're trying to help the potential client or our clients with, getting things done correctly and trying to help educate them, train them. But initially, we have to not be like an accountant, not be like a bookkeeper. We have to meet them where they're at. And so that's really hard, because I finally had to say to myself, you know your business, right? I'm good at what I do. I know what I do. I know I can help them. I don't need to convince them of that, because it'll show. They'll see as we work together that I do know what I'm doing. They really more just want somebody that's not just doing the work, but working with them, helping them with their business, that you care about their business, and so I find that it's a good point. A lot of my, as a fractional CFO, I meet with my clients weekly, but I meet with them for like an hour to maybe 3 hours sometimes, but usually it's around an hour. And so what I do, CPA firms and other accounting firms do, but they take like the effective rate of about 10 hours to do the same thing, because they have a partner, they have a manager, they have a supervisor, they have the person doing the work, and then they have the client-facing person. So I make the same rate per hour as they do, because I don't have all of that. I don't have to take all that time. Therefore, I can actually price my services at a rate that makes sense for a small to medium-sized business. So I'm all about that. People say, well, should be charging them like $4,000 or $5,000 a month. I said, okay, well, I wouldn't have any clients. Or I'd have clients that I really don't want to work with. That would take too much time. So, because for that much money, they'd expect more of my time. And I've decided this is how much time I want to meet with my clients, but I know I can do a lot for them. And some of that is through automation. Accounting and bookkeeping lends itself to that, different kinds of reporting tools, all those kinds of things. And so you're more guiding your clients through how to read the financials, how to know, red flags, how to know how can you manage your business so it continues to grow. So, but I think those are really good points. I'm going to take that in consideration for sure. So Melody, any thoughts from you about that? Oh, on me.
Some really good points that I will have to think about incorporating, but I take a little bit more of a human approach. I feel like I'm really down to earth and kind of silly and goofy. I just try to, for me, it's more about the relationship that I have with my clients. And taking that into consideration when I'm communicating with them. But I'm also ADD, and I will let them know. Like, I have no problem telling people, I have no problem telling you, I'm sorry, I had an ADD moment, or I blacked out. Let's go through this again. And obviously you can't do that in every situation, but
Sure.
when I have, because what I do is so relationship driven, most people learn that about me. And I find that most business owners have a million things going on too. So whether they're ADD or not, everybody in this world is distracted. So I have people coming into the meeting distracted already. So it usually is going both ways, where they have to apologize. They're not really paying attention. But I do like some of the tips that they suggested. I mean, we all kind of have those things that we do when we really should be paying attention and we weren't. And so we have to, those little tricks that we have to play. But I like some of the other suggestions that they gave, and I'm going to watch the video again and see if I can use those.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, like you say, the human aspect, that we are humans. And so, while I could get all dressed up and be super professional and, use these really big words to describe things, like my contemporaries, I can use one word to describe something that my clients may take me a couple of sentences. Okay. So, but I like the fact that I'm talking to somebody and their cat walks across the screen. Okay. Right. Or the other day I was talking to a client, and this is what I was doing. I was kind of going like this. Right. And so this is what they said to me. Do you have a dog? I said, yeah, I do have a dog. So are you petting your dog? And I said, yeah, I am petting my dog. I said, my corgi keeps calling me to pet him. They go, oh, I have a dog. And they talk briefly about that. And it really made the conversation, didn't change it necessarily, but it made it that much more relaxed. And, you know, and for what many of us do, we need for people to be open and honest with us, to, you know, get all the skeletons out of the closet. It's a no judgment zone. Let's just deal with it. Let's make sure we never have to do something like that again or deal with that again. Let's try to really, you know, consider that this is good just between us and no one else is going to know whatever it is that we're talking about. And so it really makes it, for me, a lot easier to take advantage of that hour, hour and a half, or 3 hours I have with my clients, make it effective. Now, some of my clients that I've been working with for a while, in the beginning, I do a little bit of a tiny agenda, but now with my clients I've been working with for a long time, I do a fairly significant agenda, and I send it out a day ahead of time. Unfortunately, I sent one out 10 minutes before the meeting last time, and they laughed. They go, oh, we're so used to getting it before. And I said, yeah, I'm so sorry. 10 minutes is not enough time. So, but it really helps to keep the conversation going. And when we get off track, or not, I don't know if off track is the right word, but when we go off into little side conversations, we can look at the agenda and go, oh yeah, we need to still talk about that. So, you know, we're not having to take notes and stuff. So that helps both them and me, because they have stuff they want to talk to me about as well. So, oh, Kristen?
It's funny. I and several clients I've worked with have always had a weird anxiety around giving an agenda ahead of time. And I mean, it makes sense, but you know, you still want to do it. There's a fear associated with, well, if I let them know what they're talking about, well, one, like, I won't get to jump on them, whatever, not negatively, but like, you know, the pizzazz, the sparkle's gone, like the release of the white doves. Okay, they already know that's gone. But then also, oh man, what if they have what if they have questions that I don't want to answer? And now they'll have time to think about like all the ways that it could go bad because you gave your client more information to work with and time to digest and process. Every aspect of sending it early is beneficial, but there seems to be very weird underlying fears with why I know I can think of 3 clients in the past 5 years that was they had a literal fear of falling off of a tall building because all of the what ifs of if they knew before, they wouldn't even tell, they have written, like they believed in agendas. They were prepared, but this was like a one-sided battle, almost like it was a negotiating where like they can't know. This was all information. This was all highly important information. I find that just, it's not help, even if it is important information, it's important if you guys are both on the same page to get something accomplished more than anything else. But yeah.